The prosecutor was done with what he had to do at the police station, all the evidence, and the guy's testimonies. He waited for the girls to arrive. Nick, who had to turn back to the company, thanked the prosecutor. Something important came up. I need to go. Please remember that no one should mention me or Mr. Hawkins' name. Of course, Mr. Nick, you can count on me. Right after Nick's departure, the trio headed inside the police station. A policewoman saw that they were looking for something. How may I help you? Yes, officer. We were told to come by a prosecutor working on our case. He said that. But before they could finish, a young professional prosecutor interrupted. Hell, officer, I invited the girls here. May I take them? The officer knew who he was, so he gave him an approving nod. He looked at the girls and turned to go out. Please follow me. He headed to the parking lot where his car was parked. He opened the car and gestured for them to enter the car. The trio entered without questions, and the prosecutor drove to his office. The prosecutor's office was a somber yet professional environment, with officers bustling around attending to various tasks. The prosecutor accompanied the trio as they entered a small conference room to discuss the details of their testimony. Sitting around the table, Olga, Maggie, and Raula listened intently as the prosecutor outlined what they could expect during the trial. He explained the importance of their testimony in securing a conviction against the kidnappers and emphasized the need for them to remain composed and truthful throughout the proceedings. Olga felt a mixture of emotions swirling inside her. Fear, anger, but also a sense of determination. She knew that reliving the traumatic events of their abduction would be difficult, but she was resolved to see justice served. As they discussed logistics and scheduling for the trial, Olga couldn't shake the feeling of unease that lingered in the back of her mind. She knew that testifying would dredge up painful memories, but she also felt a sense of responsibility to ensure that those responsible for their ordeal were held accountable. The trio was sitting, listening attentively to what the prosecutor was saying. Now, considering the story you have told me, there are some parts that may put us in a bad spot. We'll make some changes to the story you'll say in court. And don't worry, it's not lying. It is making the story more sensitive. For example, you can't tell the judge that a girl who just saw you caused a scene just because someone was talking to you when you had no problem with it. About all other things, you'll say exactly what happened. I am going to tell you what you will answer. If they ask you something that contradicts what we have agreed upon, just keep quiet. I will intervene and do my work. And again, don't involve Mr. Nick in the story. And you, pointing at Raula, continued. They'll ask you why you came and sent Lucas away as if there was a problem, or you knew they had bad intentions. You listen carefully. What I am going to tell you is what you will answer. Nothing less, nothing more. He kept breathing them on the court, his calm demeanor, confidence, and professionalism evident. After everything was ready, he gave them a written scripture of everyone's story, so they read it in their free time. No mistakes should happen if they want justice. Please read this for your convenience. Get prepared. What's written there is what you should say. About dressing. It would be better if you came in professional attire. I will see you on the day of the trial. You must arrive at least 30 minutes before the time. I think I said everything I needed to tell you. If any of you have a question or have something we don't know about, this is the right time. I need to know everything. The trio looked at each other and shook their heads. Nothing more, sir. We've said everything we know. Good. Now you're free to go. See you on Friday. The trio stood up and left the prosecutor alone in the room. He was busy updating things on his laptop. Back at Raula's apartment, which was simple and small, the love and happiness they shared made it the best place to share such a wonderful dinner. Maggie reveled in the excitement of her imminent success, leaving the case stress they went through. The aroma of cooking wafted through the air as she prepared a celebratory dinner for their anticipated gathering. At the Hawkins offices, James came out of the meeting room with his father, heading to the top floor, which only held their offices. You know, son, when I saw you presenting today, you reminded me of the younger me. I am so proud of you, and I want you to know that I have my complete trust in you, in this project, and the future of the company. Thank you, Dad. I learned everything I know from you. You're a good example of a father and businessman. Okay, James. Now bring all the documents that need my signature. I have to go home and rest. My age doesn't allow me to work hard. The old man taped James's shoulder, then went directly to his office. James watched his father disappear into his office, feeling a surge of gratitude and determination. He knew that he had big shoes to fill, but he was ready to take on the challenge. Heading back to his own office, James couldn't shake off the sense of unease that had been nagging at him all day. Despite his father's reassurances and the success of the meeting, something didn't feel right. As he sat down at his desk, he couldn't help but replay the events of the day in his mind. There had been tension in the air during the meeting, a subtle undercurrent that he couldn't quite place. And then there was Nick, who wasn't around. He went to the police in the morning to check how the case was going, with his cryptic instructions to keep his name out of things. James knew he would find out why the board members weren't willing to help or understand him. James couldn't help but wonder why Nick hadn't found out about it. He had always been a trusted employee, and he had always been there, even before he became the CEO. To James, Nick is more than an employee. Nick is that person who understands him well, who doesn't fear him, who gives him outstanding advice, who knows his weak side and everything about him. He's clever and intelligent when it comes to working and planning. And now he needed him more than ever. Pulling up the documents that needed his father's signature, James couldn't shake off the feeling that there was more to this than met the eye. He needed to dig deeper to find out what was going on. Suddenly, a knock on the door interrupted his thoughts. James looked up to see his assistant poking her head in. "Mr. James, sorry to bother you, but there's a call for you. It's Nick." James felt a jolt of surprise at the mention of Nick's name. He was just thinking about him. What could he want now? "Put him through," James said, his curiosity piqued. As he picked up the phone, James couldn't help but wonder what news this tangled web of events would bring. "What is it, Nick?"